Hey guys, welcome to Probate Café. I am your host, Eric Kaiser with RE/MAX, and thank you for joining us for this next episode of Probate Café. And today I have a special guest, Kelly Carlshe, who is an estate sales representative with Grayson's Estate Sale Company. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Looking forward to doing a great podcast and getting some questions answered that I'm sure the audience is very interested in learning about. But first, how did you get in this business?
Okay, so when I was a kid, my family would buy and sell at the swap meet. So I've always been a treasure hunter. And my dad was a bottle collector. We'd go around the country digging for bottles, old bottles, medicine bottles and things like that. And he collected those. Then we'd do bottle shows. And so I never really thought as a kid that I'd be doing something like this as an adult. I wish I had known I would, and I would have probably paid attention a little bit better when I was a kid to value of things and things like that and learned more. But anyways, no, I just have always been doing a variation of this my whole life. And
wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, you always start somewhere, and you're never sure where it kind of goes or comes from. But everybody's got a backstory, right? Like, how did you do this, or how did you get into that? Wow, that's really interesting. Wow, well, thank you for sharing that. And so what kind of makes you passionate about the business that you do?
Well, I really love helping people. Before I bought this franchise about 6 years ago, I actually was doing professional organizing. I would downsize seniors, get them into assisted living facilities, work one-on-one with them, getting them into that and organizing them. So I really am passionate about helping people, solving a problem, keeping things out of landfills. My industry, doing estate sales, is kind of a sustainable industry. It's not generating new waste. We can keep things out of landfills. People can enjoy items, and the stories live on with items sometimes. And so, I'm passionate about all those things, helping people, keeping things out of landfills, and solving a problem for realtors, families, whoever may need this kind of service.
Wow, that's interesting because there's a value to almost everything, right? There's a buyer for almost everything. So when somebody sees something like, oh, I got to have that, I've been looking for that, or I used to have one of those, I want to replace it. It reminds me of my childhood or whatever the item is, right? So it doesn't probably matter too much what it is as long as there's some sort of value to it. And that people see, right? So you never know what you're going to find. It's kind of like like you said, a treasure hunt. When you show up at your estate sales, they can find you're never really sure what they're going to find. So sometimes they'll know, right? You'll advertise, and sometimes it's just a luck of the draw. Let's just go see what we find, right? You create that mystery around it. Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's what I want is them to. I take hundreds of photos and put it in a marketing campaign, sure, but inevitably there's going to be items that are uncovered after I do the photos, and maybe I can't add the photos, or family adds things at the last minute that don't make it to the photo shoot. So I want people just to come and see what's going to be at the estate sale, because I can have a lot of things in photographs, but there's always going to be treasures that I can't photograph or don't make it in there. And it's a complete mystery to a customer, and they think they're coming to the sale for just one thing, and then they're like, see so many other things and leave with extra treasures.
Awesome. So if anyone's listening to that, make sure you show up at your estate sales, because you could walk away with something really, really interesting, right?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the goal, right? Is like find something that you didn't think you wanted, but then you knew you wanted when you saw it, right? Well, tell us more about what exactly is an estate sale.
Oh, sure. So an estate sale is basically the liquidation of assets inside a home or business. It can be anything from clothes to cars. When I do business liquidations, it's whatever their business assets are, industrial shelving, cooking equipment, just who knows what there are. A lot of office supplies and things. Just every estate sale is so different. I've liquidated a picture framing shop. There was like tons of artwork and framed pictures and picture frames and all kinds of framing like equipment to make picture framing.
Oh wow, okay.
And actually, a guy who's going to get into that for his side business, he bought all the picture framing equipment. So he's going to start his own business. So these things kind of live on.
Interesting, because the ththings that you sell, like it's not just things that come from a residential home, right? It's things that come from a business then?
Yeah, anything. Yeah. I've sold lots of businesses. I've liquidated a 6,000 square foot brewery. I did a 11.
How fun was that? Did they give you a sample?
That was really fun because they lost their lease, which was very sad, but they had such a following that the turnout was really great. It wasn't all of my regular customers, but it was the brewery's customers. They wanted one last piece of their favorite brewery to remember them. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Family or the business heirlooms to the customers, like a sign that has something memorable of that.
Yeah, it was a very popular bar in Carlshe. It was called Phantom Carriage, and it was a horror-themed bar.
Wow, how did I miss not going to that one?
It was amazing. Yeah, they showed black and white horror movies inside and then outside during COVID.
See, that's something I would have definitely went to and tried out and visited.
Yeah.
If I knew about it. But,
Well, you're more in Orange County mostly, right?
Yeah, but I traveled. For that, I would have traveled.
Right.
That sounds so interesting.
Especially if you knew they were closing and you wanted to go before they closed or something like that.
I would definitely have gone in October, around Halloween. That would have been really fun.
Yeah. I'm sure they really did it up for then. I'd gone to the brewery a couple times before they closed and not knowing that they were going to close. And then they called me for a liquidation. I was like, oh, yeah, I know exactly who you are. Oh, don't go.
Oh, wow. Well, the good thing is they know who you are.
Yeah,
so that's the important thing.
Yeah, I was actually a customer of theirs, not just a liquidation person showing up out of the blue. Like I knew their business.
That's important relationships in any business, right? Especially in yours, because they have to trust you going in there and evaluating the properties and all the items, I should say. So, let me ask you this. What kind of things do you sell versus are there anything that you don't like selling? Is there certain things that jump out at you that maybe not be a good fit or it's just not valuable enough? I mean, what is your situation with that?
Okay, so we sell everything from clothes to cars and things that, we have buyers, a lot of buyers for different things. I jokingly say I have a denture buyer, which is odd, right? Because it's a really random thing, but I really do.
Wow. See, there's a market for everything.
Right, exactly. But some things I don't like to sell is like a piano. Pianos are hard to sell. Nobody has that kind of space anymore. So every time we have a piano, I'm like, I sell them, but it's just not for as much money as the person paid for them.
It's one of those things. Yeah. It's like you got to buy it. It's like a boat, right? You got to buy it because you want it.
Yeah.
Not to
you want to
resell
play it or whatever. Yeah. People don't have the space to just have a luxury piano in the corner anymore. Like, houses are too small.
Yeah, and then what do? Yeah, you've got a grand piano or a baby grand piano for that matter, right? And then you just got to find that perfect buyer that wants that, and that's a tough thing.
I know. I try to find a perfect home for every piano, but they're hard to sell.
That's so interesting because when I go in and I list a property, a probate sale or a trust sale, and it's just packed with stuff. A lot of times, I'll invite Grayson's in and one of the franchise members, depending on where the property is. I know it's a national firm, so you guys have people everywhere and you're trained. So I rely on you guys to come in and evaluate certain things. And sometimes, there's just not enough stuff to sell or there's certain things that they just can't do it. And I end up throwing the stuff away. And I feel so bad because, sometimes I'm sifting through photos and things and there's no family members. It's like, wow, this person had no other family members and, these photos have to go. And it's pretty heartbreaking when you go through it. Even when I do it, right? I don't know how you deal with that, but that's just my feeling.
Well, I try not to let it affect me because if it did, I wouldn't be great at my job. But it is. It's kind of heartbreaking. But I just have to separate myself and kind of just do the best job I can for the client. And that's the best way to do that is to stay impartial and objective and know that the goal here is getting them the maximum amount of money for their items. You know what I mean? Even black and white photos. We sell black and white photos.
I see. I didn't know that. Okay, now I know that.
I know every time the family, when I try to come in early and do a free consultation so that they don't donate the clothes, so that they don't throw away the black and white photos. They're like, but I didn't know who was in them. I'm like, that's good. Then I can sell them. If you don't know who's in them, then I can sell them. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay. So that's going to be a great. That's just now you're more of a resource than you were before, right? So because you don't know, I wouldn't have known that would have been
save
of value.
Black and white photos. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that you've come across the scenario where there's not enough stuff to where an estate sale could help you. That's too bad because we try our hardest to strategize. Sometimes maybe we could take items from that house that doesn't have enough stuff and put it in another sale. If we have a scenario like that where there's a sale that needs some things, that's what I did a couple months ago for a family. They just barely had anything. They had some stuff in a storage unit and they just needed a location to sell things at. But, it does come up where I've said, no, it's too small. There's not enough stuff.
Yeah, because it's got to be worth your time as well. Otherwise,
yeah, for sure.
it's just
Well,
not
I
gonna
want
work,
the
right?
family to be happy with their check at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the way, I don't really look at it as like, oh, well, it's got to be worth my time. It has to be worth the family putting them through this process, which can be a bit much, and then being happy at the end with their check. If they're not happy with their check, they won't be happy with us. So
Right.
it's not worth the risk for that.
I've definitely had those experiences with other estate sale companies where they don't set that expectation up in the beginning, and they're like, wow, they went ahead and found an estate sale company on their own, and before we listed the property, and they just weren't happy because, okay, there's a lot of stuff that they thought they could sell, the expectation wasn't there, they didn't end up with enough money that they thought they would, and it's just, you don't want to, those disappointments, you don't want those to start in the beginning of any kind of working relationship, right? So
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes the families call us first, sometimes the realtors call us first, but we're always mindful of the fact that the real paycheck, I mean, yes, you will get money from the estate sale, but the real check is coming when the property sells. And so the sooner we can get to that, the better. And if we can meet those escrow dates for you and things like that, and not hold up the process, then we know the family will be happy in the end with getting the check from that at least. And sometimes if you can also tell the clients that the money that they make from the estate sale maybe could pay for staging or repairs to the home, something that will get them more value out of the home too, something that they're reluctant to pay for on their own. Some people don't see the value in staging and things like that, but if they have a resource for paying for that, they might be more willing to do that.
Oh, it's an excellent point. Yeah. And I know you've done quite a few, I think 170 estate sales in the South Bay area. So you've got a lot of experience that you've been through this enough times where you know how to do this from A to Z and you know what to look out for. And I think that's really important for people to understand, is like going with somebody that has that experience and that's done enough sales that you have that grasp on how to get it done, right?
Exactly. And what I like about Grayson's is that there's, a lot of estate sale companies, if they're not a franchise, they can go anywhere. They can go from Pasadena to San Diego the next week, But Grayson's, we're all in one area. We're a franchise, and so we specialize in that area. We have a local customer base. We see the same people over and over, and we know things like, if we need a permit in that city, what the street sweeping is like there, what festivals are going on that's going to affect parking in that area and that might maybe sway us to have an estate sale on, say, Thursday, skip Friday altogether, and then pick up the sale again on Saturday or Sunday, something like that. Like, I know my area really well, and I live in my area, and so I just know what's going on in the area.
Yeah, I've even sold properties down in San Diego where I've reached out to the contact down there.
Yeah.
In West Covina, Inland Empire.
They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to work with someone that knows what they're doing, that in any profession. And tell me a little bit about tell the audience a little bit of how you evaluate the properties and personal, and how do you determine those values?
Yeah, so we see some of the same things over and over, but we also use apps and things to look up the value of things. I've brought in an expert if it's been something that I didn't know how to price. Like the show Pawn Stars.
I was just going to bring that up. Pawn Stars, where they let me take it to my buddy, and
I know, which I don't know if that's kind of scripted-ish, but I have some experts, local experts, that know how to help me out if I don't know how to price something. But in most things, I do know how to price.
Okay,
just
excellent.
Look it up.
Yeah, that, or you can start your own show, and I'm sure you'll find people coming out of the woodwork to offer you
offer their services, their expertise.
That never hurts. Never hurts.
Yeah.
Wow. And share with me a little bit about, I know Grayson's is a big company; they're a national company now. So, what makes Grayson's different than other independent estate sale companies?
Well, I guess just, we're all licensed, bonded, and insured, which seems like a no-brainer, right? But there are companies out there that aren't licensed and bonded, and they hold estate sales, so be very careful. Who you recommend, who you work with, and ask the right questions when you call. But also, I like the franchise model. It works, in the way that I talked about as far as local customers, knowing the area and things like that. But it's also nice on the back end if we're like lacking in workers or something like that. We can ask another franchise, hey, can you help me? Or say I'm booked and I can't do a sale. I've got a family who really needs an estate sale held right now. I'll call up a surrounding franchise owner and say, hey, can you come in my area and hold this sale really fast for me? So because we really don't like to leave families in the lurch, like, oh, no, we're booked, can't help you, sorry,
Yeah.
We really like to get everybody helped if they have enough stuff.
Then you definitely want to be there for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think as Graysons, they do additional trainings and things like that from what I recall, where, they try to keep you guys up to par on education as far as, things that are being sold that are maybe, maybe they're comic books, maybe they're paintings, maybe you have to know different types of artists, right, locally, or and research art, artwork, right? If you're doing something by the coast, somebody needs a lot of artwork, that's important too, because you may have a valuable piece of art that somebody else might not have that experience to, or the resources to determine what the value may be.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes I've gone to, we have a group that we all chat in, and we can bounce ideas off of each other and ask questions like, hey, have you ever seen this artist come up or whatever? Yeah.
And if they're dead, it just adds value, right?
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it's one of the things that
I know
guess,
it sounds weird, but yeah.
Isn't that weird how it does that? I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the art world, but that's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
So tell us, if someone's a realtor, right? You're selling a property. I sell a lot of these properties, but tell us what a realtor could do, right? They have their client, they're all kind of set up already. What can a realtor do to facilitate an estate sale with you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the best thing is to call us in early, just because we don't want those things thrown away that might add up at an estate sale, right? Because the realtor wants things really like thinned out. And let me tell you about one scenario I had so we can start thinking outside the box about these estate sales, right? Okay, so I came in, it was a probate attorney called me in, and they had really nice stuff, and the stager wanted to use some of it for staging. So we held an estate sale, and we got a lot of it thinned out, the clothing, the jewelry, tools, got it all thinned out, and then the stager saved some things that they wanted for staging. And they saved the family a lot of money on staging, and then we came back and held a second estate sale at the property, and both sales did really well.
Wow.
So we can coordinate with you, the realtor, with stagers, with a lot of different people, and get like not only the family saving money, but saving time also, and just strategize the best fit for the family. Every sale is so different, right? Every estate sale is so different. Every property is so different. And we've got to strategize early what the best way to help this family is going to be.
Interesting. Okay. And how about any kind of like recreational vehicles? Do you deal with anything like that, like motorcycles?
Like, do I sell vehicles?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I sold
not just cars,
okay.
but other
I
stuff, right?
sold a Ducati the other day.
Really? Wow. Did somebody get a deal on it, or did you sell?
I don't know. It was. I got more than we were asking for. What we do with cars and vehicles, we start at a certain price, and we try to get people to bid up a little bit more. Like, take the best offer in the end, because that's the best for the family, right? So yeah, I know I've sold a Ducati and regular vehicles, and a Harley Davidson. I can't think of any other crazy vehicles I've sold.
Wow. And tell us, what's the biggest, I guess, estate you've worked with or conducted?
Like size-wise? Okay, so I did an 11,000 square foot prop house. That's the largest one I can think of right now. That's pretty big, right?
Yeah. Wow.
The show Terminal List with Chris Pratt was wrapped up filming.
Okay.
And they needed the props liquidated. So, and it was all new stuff. Like the stove that they used on the set was never cooked in, right? And they had duplicates and triplicates of everything. Because if something gets broken on the set, what do? They need to get a new one in there quickly. So it was interesting. It was an interesting sale. We had a great turnout for that one. That one was in Gardena a couple years back.
Oh, wow. So do you work with a lot of people in Hollywood as well? Do you work that far up, or does
if they contact me, because they have warehouses outside of Hollywood because it's cheaper. right?
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and then, they take the props from there and then they go into LA and film or whatever. But the rent is cheaper if they go on the outskirts. So that's where their prop houses usually are.
Wow, interesting. Okay. That's I've never heard of that, but I
So,
guess
yeah.
your services encompass just about everything then. That
Any kind of liquidation needs. That's why I don't just say I do estate sales. I do liquidations of any kind. I've done over 170 liquidations. They're just a variety. I've done small properties. The smallest thing I've probably done is a storage unit.
Oh, really? Okay.
On up to the prop house. So anything in between ADU. But what I do the most of is homes, is in the Riviera and, in Torrance, is homes. But inventory is so low right now. So people are thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, well, downsizing, or people are moving out of the state right now, right? Mm-hmm. So downsizing sale, when people are still alive, you don't have to wait till someone passes away to do an estate sale these days.
Yeah. That's important because it's like if you're going to downsize, you don't want to throw your stuff away, and you don't want to have a garage sale because you'll get 50 cents, for something that's worth $10. So they might as well call you, right?
Absolutely. We usually get the family, we always get the family more money than if they would have held the sale themselves. Plus, it's a lot of work and it's an emotional process. I don't care if the family says, I'm not emotionally attached to this stuff, I can sell it. They are. They're emotionally attached to it.
And I would think that you do not want family members there because they'll say, okay, well, I really want to keep that. I'm sure that's tough if they're there. Well,
they'd usually say something if they were there, they'd usually say something along the lines of, well, if that's all I'm going to get, I'm just going to keep it.
Yeah.
But it all adds up. You know what I mean? Someone might have got a deal on this, but they paid more for this than they wanted to. And my clients are always happy with their check at the end, and they don't need to exactly see how we get there. You know what I mean? Just know that everything was taken care of, and now the property's empty, and you can move on with the next phase. What's the next phase for this property or your life or something? Where kind of a transition service.
Oh wow, okay. And then obviously people that are going into senior living, things like that, you'll help them with those situations, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe not the packing and moving and space planning. They could use a professional organizer for that. But the liquidating of what they don't need, what doesn't fit in their new property, absolutely.
I'm sure the kids will come in and keep what they really want and then bring you in.
The sentimental things, yeah.
Bring you in and say, hey, let's do the estate sale based on all this, what's left over. I think that would be a huge benefit.
Oh, yeah. I'm always a fan of keeping what is sentimental. The family should always keep that because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Or take a picture of it and let the item go, the actual item. If you don't have space for it, if it's a china set that you're not going to use, but you actually like it, maybe take a picture of the china set and let the actual set go.
That's such a great idea. If you it makes me think, it's like, okay, well, I have a lot of clients that are out of state.
Yes.
So I have to go in there and I have to look at everything. I take photos of everything anyway. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I'll end up shipping furniture back to the East Coast. And I've got a sale coming up in Carlsbad that the situation is like that, where we have to create three furniture items. I think a couple dressers that are collector's items, a table that the decedent built. So you ship those back, but you take photos. Okay, what do you want? Kind of go through things, help them. And question, what do you do if there's things left over that you didn't sell? How do you facilitate the
clean out of the property? Yeah. Well, just to let you know, there's always stuff left over after an estate sale. Always, because we don't treat it like a garage sale at the end, right? I mean, we could and get it really all gone, but we don't. And so we have a haul away company or trash out company come. Sometimes it's a charity. We do work with a lot of charities that come and pick up things after an estate sale. It's kind of what the family wants done with these things. Sometimes I actually want the stuff back, but usually we'll line up a charity to come and pick up these things after the estate sale.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be nice. So at least somebody can use something. If somebody, because there's a value to everything, like we talked about. If somebody doesn't want to pay for something, maybe somebody can pick something up for charity that really needs it.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Maybe it's an old dresser, right, that somebody just needs, and they can spend the time to sand or paint it themselves, right?
Store it. Yeah, because we want to keep things out of landfills, get things rehomed, enjoyed by other people. And I also don't want to do my clean outs myself because I feel like it's kind of a conflict of interest. If I'm going to go clean the property out after the estate sale, people are going to start to wonder, did she price it so that she could keep it? Does she have other plans for this? Does she sell on eBay? I don't do any of that. I don't have a warehouse or a store or anything. I don't do my own clean outs. So I try to have another company do the clean outs, like a charity or something.
Yeah, that's important, and I'm sure your reputation is out there. Where that's why you work with people that have good reputations, that know what they're doing, is so you can rely on them to do the best job possible, as opposed to go with the fly by night, somebody that you don't really know, that hasn't been around. I'm sure everybody starts somewhere, but it's definitely a challenge, share with us, what is the coolest thing that you've ever found or sold, and something really interesting? Do you have anything like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Lots of things. One thing that comes to mind is that we had this collection of wet specimens.
What is a wet specimen?
It's a bunch of like snakes and lizards and things in jars. I don't know if you find that interesting. We've also had a human skull, a medical human skull that was for sale. It's
Wow.
legal to sell. Don't
Is
get mad
it?
at me. It is, because it was a medical one. It was from a dentist.
Oh,
He
okay.
passed away. He had a lot of dental things.
It wasn't his skull.
No. No. It was his training, model or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, nowadays I think they're made out of plastic or something, but
I would hope so.
then, right? But back then it wasn't. So, anyways, that was kind of interesting. What else have I found? Oh, I don't know. Just lots of cool things.
You know what jumped out at me really interesting that you talked about was the storage lockers, right? Because I watch the show Storage Wars,
yeah,
and they're all out here in Southern California. But I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. They're kind of doing the same thing. So if a family knows of something like that that their decedent or their family member had, it's almost better to call you in to go through that, as opposed to letting like the storage company do their own auction, right?
I think so. It's better to know what you have than to let it go so you don't have to keep paying and always wonder what was in there.
Yeah.
I mean, at least let's find out.
Right? Because you don't know what it could be.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm doing a storage locker right now, but I'm taking the contents from it and taking it to a property. So we can uncover it. But, the family got a chance to go through it and everything. But I think that that's the best way. If you just let the contents go, you'll never know what was in there.
Yeah, something could have been valuable that you just didn't know. It could have
Yeah.
been a set of Hot Wheels or something like that I saw that was pretty valuable. Or a cigarette case that you have 4 of that I saw in Storage Wars or something that you just don't know. You think it's junk, and then you find out, you spend the time to look at it. You're like, oh, wow, this is worth a few $1,000s.
I think what happens is sometimes the families don't find out about the storage unit until it's already been let go because someone didn't pay on it. I think that's more what happens. I think they always maybe would call a liquidator. I get phone calls all the time from people saying, I have a storage unit. Can you help me?
Oh, how do you handle that? Do you just do you go out there, you talk to them, and go out there? Do you take a look at it, or is there a certain area that you just kind of work in?
Usually I go out there and take a look because I live in the area that I work in. But if they're calling me saying, it's full, I have a storage unit full of furniture and it's like Thomasville furniture, I might be like, oh, I don't have any buyers for that. I might not go out, but I don't like to not help people. I'm in the business of helping people. So I try to see what I can do to help them.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. It's you got to be there to help people. That's why
Yeah.
you're in the business, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why you got in the business.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things. That's the most rewarding part of my job. I mean, yes, I make money, but I work on commission. I don't make an hourly rate. Okay. So if I help the family and make them money, that's when I make money. And that's what I feel good about, is helping the family. I'm helping them solve a problem. And because historically families have had to run their own estate sales, and that's got to be hard when people come up and try to buy something for $1 because it's stained, and like the family has to hear all those comments that customers make, and it's not always pleasant to hear that, and they can't unhear it. When we come in and we stage things, take a bunch of photos and stage everything, make it look like a little shop and price things, and then we get it all cleared out at the end. The family doesn't have to be involved in any of that.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
and you do the estate sale at the home itself, right?
Usually because things sell better in their natural environment. I know it sounds funny to say it that way, but a couch still sells better in a living room. It doesn't sell well in a warehouse.
Yeah.
People want to measure things and touch things. Now, there is online sales, and I have done those, especially through COVID, virtual sales, but I still like the in-person interaction, the interaction with my customers, the same customers I see every week, and letting my customers be able to, sit on a couch and see how comfortable it is instead of buying it
Yeah.
online.
And in furniture, I always found it was a really tough sell.
Yeah.
Usually it's older stuff, but I guess
It
if
is.
it's new furniture that someone just bought, it'd probably sell, right?
You know what sells the best furniture-wise, actually, is mid-century modern furniture.
Oh,
You
okay.
know how everyone is into that right now, especially mid-century
Yeah.
homes, those one-story, like really cool homes. But yeah, if it's not that, then furniture is a little bit hard.
Do you clean the furniture at all? Do you hire like cleaners to come in, like steam cleaners, and just kind of?
I haven't. We're not always given that amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be beneficial. It's not real cost effective. What if we do all that and the furniture never even sells?
That's true. And is your market, kind of? I kind of base things on the value of the house.
Okay.
So when I'm selling a house, typically that I sell probate and trust properties. They're usually under $1 million.
Okay.
Especially a lot of the probates. So if you're doing a estate sale for a probate, what is your I guess your typical valuation of your estate sales that you sell? Do you sell like the lower end, from a lower end property, for example, a property in the $700,000-800,000 range, or are you doing estate sales on the multi-million-dollar platform for those valuations? For example, a house that's worth $2 to $3 million. Do you do a lot of those estate sales, or what's your kind of range of the house? You would say the value of the house, because that's always interesting to me. Is like, are estate sales done at a higher end or a lower end more often than not? Or
Well, I mean, I've done a estate sale at a $14.5 million home. That's probably the most expensive home. And they had a lot of artwork and nice things. And it was a very nice house. But my customers really like older stuff. So I would say that my customers would prefer like maybe the lower end homes, but only because the stuff is older. It has really nothing to do with the home itself and how much the home is worth. Because if you think about it, sometimes hoarder homes make the best estate sales, but you're not going to get top dollar for a hoarder home that needs a lot of work and might be just torn down.
right,
It might be a total tear down.
but it could be a great storage unit.
It was probably a great storage unit, which makes for a great estate sale, right? Because it was just stored like a time capsule and everything was preserved. And, like they didn't throw away what we call ephemera. Ephemera is something that was intended to be thrown away, like a newspaper or something. But now it's valuable because it wasn't thrown away. Black and white photos, postcards. People collect all those things.
Wow. And what was the term? Ephemera?
Ephemera, yeah.
Ephemera. Wow, I just learned something new. That's interesting. So now I know, yeah, so you can educate us realtors out in the marketplace to know what to spot and what to look for and what, because sometimes I'm sure realtors go out there and they're assisting their clients either sell a probate home or something that needs renovation, and they don't really know the value themselves, but they don't know, kind of who to call.
Exactly.
So-
And I know realtors that have told me, I've asked them, who have you called or what have you done in the past when you've come across a property full of personal belongings? And they've literally told me, I tell the family to get it cleared out and then call me when it's ready. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, now you don't have to do that. You can suggest us. I'll come in anytime. There's been, a realtor's been on a consult and they'll call me and they'll be like, hey, Kelly, can you come down here and just kind of advise and see if this is an estate sale that we can hold here? And I'll be like, sure, I'll be right there.
Well, that's great. So you're available for that. That's
Yeah.
a great service, because sometimes we need that if the family flies in from out of town
And they're
out of
only
state.
there for a short amount of time. Exactly. You need an answer right now.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable with what can be done.
Yes.
And I have a client that they wanted to keep it and they wanted to sell the items themselves, but my client collected beer steins. So I think he had 3,000 beer steins in the
Wow.
garage.
Okay.
And my clients, I think, from Oklahoma. So they came out twice to pick up all these things, and they drove them all back.
No. That sounds like so much work.
Yeah, and then they were going to go through it and determine the value. And I explained to them all, let's call Grayson's, just like, let's at least give you the option so that you don't have to do all this work. Because that's my job, is to make their life easier and handling it
Right.
from A to Z.
Yeah,
And I've got these
yeah.
resources, but they just wanted to take care of themselves and
Okay.
do it on eBay. And I was like, well, okay. You do what you can to make their life easier, but sometimes they want to take care of it themselves, which is interesting.
Who knows? Well, if as long as they felt good about it at the end, you know what I mean? Like if they hadn't been given the opportunity to handle it themselves, it sounds like they really only felt comfortable with that. And that happens sometimes, or sometimes an estate sale can't be held on the property and, so they need to sell it online themselves or something.
Yeah, like if it's an HOA, you've got certain restrictions. There's certain things like that, right? If you're dealing with something
Usually it's like when a family member still lives on site or something and they don't want someone, they don't want the public coming through the property. I personally feel like an estate sale is a great opportunity to get people interested in buying the home. It's like a soft opening for you guys.
Right? Yeah.
Getting the public in there. And I'm always giving out the realtor's information. If there is one picked by then, which there probably is, picked by that point, I'm always giving out the realtor's information when people ask me, oh, is this going to go on the market? I really like it. Things like that.
Yeah, especially in this current market that we have in Southern California, where we still have limited inventory.
So low, yeah.
You're going to get those questions for sure, and people asking you that.
Absolutely,
So
every sale, pretty much. Yeah,
that's good.
And even rental properties, if it's for rent, people might want to rent it. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. So I learned a lot today. Hopefully, everyone did as well.
Yeah.
So. Kelly, share with us, kind of how someone can reach you. What's the best way to reach you? Is it by your website, or is it by phone, or is it by email?
Yeah, I would say Graysons.com is a great website. I'm also on Instagram. On Instagram, you could see like little videos of a little walkthrough of the estate sale before we actually open. Social media is a great way to find me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us on Probate Cafe. It was a pleasure having you, and you shared a lot of information, and I think I definitely learned something. So,
awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode of Probate Cafe. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully you learned something today, and we've got a lot of value to share. So tune in to us each week. You can check us out on Spotify. Just type Probate Cafe, and you'll find us right there. Thanks for watching.